It is my great honor to introduce to you Governor Katie Hobbs. Born and raised in Arizona, Governor Hobbs has spent her life exemplifying hard work and public service. She is a graduate of both NAU and ASU and has used her Master's of Social Work to help unhoused youth in Phoenix and run one of the largest domestic violence shelters in the country. With over a decade of public service, Governor Hobbs spent 8 years in the Arizona legislature, including 2 terms as Senate Minority Leader. She later became Arizona's Secretary of State, where she forcefully defended the votes and voices of every single Arizonan. Seeing her home state at a critical moment in history, she made the decision to run for governor, and in 2022 was elected the 5th woman and also 5th Arizona native to lead the state. Governor Hobbs sees her role in government as an extension of her social work. In her first term, she has already moved the needle forward on some of our state's most critical issues, including housing, water security, and economic development. Governor Hobbs approaches every situation and every challenge with a desire to make people's lives better and give every Arizonan an opportunity to thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Arizona's 24th Governor, Katie Hobbs.
Thank you, Sharon. Good morning, everyone. I am so thrilled to be joining the Water Resources Research Center this year. And before I start, I want to take a moment to honor the life and legacy of Dr. Thomas Meixner, who we so tragically lost 2 years ago. To his wife, Kathleen, who is here with us, our hearts are with you today and every day. His impact on the University of Arizona will be felt for generations, and I'm so glad to be here today in his honor. This year's conference theme of water solutions through partnerships is very timely as we face water issues across the state that require collaboration to solve. Last week brought news of several significant developments for the Colorado River. On Tuesday, the federal government officially finalized the Lower Basin conservation deal that we reached with our neighbors, California and Nevada. This historic agreement included unprecedented volumes of water, of voluntary water conservation that will ensure our reservoirs are stabilized for the next 3 years. When I came into office in January of last year, it was clear the lower basin states were not on the same page at all. By April, we had been able to put our differences aside, and through the power of collaboration, we got a deal that protects Arizona from draconian cuts and ensures no Arizonan will be forced to cut their water use. This collaboration has brought stability and given us time to negotiate a long-term solution for the Colorado River. We know that we are well into our 2nd decade of drought and face greater impacts due to climate change. Short-term solutions and a few wet winters when we get lucky are good, but the Colorado River is too important to Arizona to go without truly sustainable management. We all benefit from a healthy Colorado River. It fuels our farms, our economy, and our way of life here in the West. And that is why all water users in all sectors, in all states, need to share in the responsibility of finding solutions to the challenges we face. This is not the time for anyone to sit on the sidelines. This proactive spirit and the need for a collective approach was captured in the proposal Arizona, California, and Nevada published last week to protect the Colorado River, a plan that offers new, creative, and holistic approach to bring lasting resiliency to our water supplies. Not only does this proposal address the imbalance between supply and demand in the lower basin, but it includes California coming to the table with significant and meaningful contributions as well. Even just a few years ago, this would have been unthinkable, but it shows how far we've come in a short amount of time by taking this issue seriously and confronting our challenges directly. We have a long path ahead of us, and we still need to see commitments from the upper basin to equitably share in the responsibility of protecting the Colorado River. But we have made tremendous progress, and I'm confident that through collaboration and perseverance, we can find solutions that ensure the river remains resilient for generations to come. At a state level, we are in the thick of the legislative session and have begun serious debates centering around water supplies, specifically rural groundwater. Rural Arizona has a groundwater problem. More water is pumped each year than is annually replenished by nature. We are overdrafting our water bank account, and in many communities throughout Arizona, it is the only water supply available. Groundwater is a finite resource, and once pumped, it won't return within our lifetimes. We've known this to be a problem in our state for decades, and yet so little has been done about it. Since my very first day in office, I've been determined to change this. This means making tough choices and taking action. Last year, I put together my Water Policy Council that embarked on a process to identify groundwater basins in Arizona that are under threat and to develop solutions to protect them. In just 6 months, this bipartisan group of representatives from agriculture, industry, rural Arizona, cities, tribes, environmental organizations, and more developed recommendations to address some of the challenges we're facing with our groundwater supplies. From closing loopholes to creating innovative new policies that better protect our aquifers, this committee did the work and accomplished something special, giving us a roadmap for action to improve groundwater resiliency. This public stakeholder process produced studies on which basins in Arizona were most vulnerable, highlighting those left out when the 1980 Groundwater Management Act was created. To address these outdated parameters, my Water Policy Council developed an entirely new framework for how to protect rural aquifers, proposing a concept called rural groundwater management areas, a concept modeled on a Republican bill introduced by Senator Borelli and Representative Biasucci last year. This would create a customizable, locally driven process where stakeholders could work with the Arizona Department of Water Resources to develop conservation programs that are tailored to the unique needs of their communities. This framework was turned into legislation and introduced by Representative Chris Mathis and Senator Priya Sundaresan as House Bill 2857. Unfortunately, as so often has been the case over the years in our legislature, this bill was never given a committee hearing. Instead of a common sense and bipartisan policy, the legislature has moved forward with Senate Bill 1221. Make no mistake, while proponents claim that it will give rural communities a voice, it will silence them instead. It creates a convoluted process that would make it nearly impossible for our communities to manage their groundwater. In effect, it sets rural Arizonans up to fail, and it leaves us with the status quo, where out-of-state corporate farmers come from around the world to take advantage of our aquifers and pump unchecked amounts of groundwater, while small farmers and local communities get their water sucked out from under them. This is beyond unacceptable. As I said in my State of the State address in January, we need solutions on rural groundwater this year. I'm willing to work with these bill sponsors or anyone else to pass legislation that is real, effective, and helps protect the water supplies for rural communities in this state. There is still a path forward for compromise, but should Senate Bill 1221 remain unchanged, it will not receive my signature. Fortunately, we have reasons to be optimistic. First, our collective efforts have brought the conversation around groundwater in Arizona to the forefront. It is safe to say that without our work, this would not have been made a priority. We have forced people to acknowledge that there is a need for action and made clear that failure to act is not an option. Secondly, leaders in this state have many shared values: a desire to protect rural Arizona, to provide certainty to water users, to give local stakeholders more control over water management, and to slow this unmitigated depletion of Arizona's aquifers. We can and we must tap into this common ground to find a solution that works and to put petty politics aside. At the end of the day, we have the tools available to help rural communities through groundwater management. The Arizona Department of Water Resources has the responsibility and the authority to make data-driven, science-based decisions to implement groundwater management throughout Arizona. These tools provide a backstop that ensures we have a path for protecting our groundwater supplies, no matter what happens in the legislature. And I won't shy away from supporting ADWR's exercise of this authority. For these reasons and many more, we have cause for optimism. And I can say with certainty that we are moving the ball forward on securing our state's water future. I first ran for public office to make a real difference in people's lives and to make sure that those without a voice were being heard and to take action where others have not. I can honestly say that the work we have done on this issue has been some of the work that I am most proud of, and it fuels my commitment going forward. I hope you all feel the gravity of the changes that we're making the way that I do, and that these moments will continue to guide you. What makes me the most hopeful is that there is such a fantastic group of water professionals here today who are taking these issues on and serving as leaders in Arizona's water community. Arizona has a long history of leading the way towards a brighter future when it comes to water management, and we will continue to do so. To have all of you here today, for furthering your education, developing relationships, and finding solutions makes me extremely optimistic about the direction of our state. It's meetings like this where partnerships and new ways of thinking are born. It will be your perspectives, ideas, and connections that ultimately allow us to solve our water challenges, not just on the Colorado River, but throughout the state. It is such an honor and pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to some Q&A right now. Thank you.
We'll share. Yeah. That'll be less challenging than my finding the right button. Thank you, Governor, for those great comments. The focus of this conference is improving water management through partnerships. What partnership efforts stand out to you as we have been navigating very challenging Colorado River hydrology now for 20 years or more?
Well, I think you heard me touch on that a little bit in my remarks. And I can speak to the partnerships that we have really focused on during my short tenure, not necessarily the last 20 years of work on the Colorado, but top of mind really is our partnership with the lower basin states, Nevada and California. As I mentioned, when I came into office, we were really worlds apart in terms of what we needed to do. And within months, we were submitting a joint proposal to the federal government that stabilize the Colorado River with historic levels of conservation. And I think really importantly for Arizona, helped us avoid really draconian cuts that would have been imposed. And we're doing the same thing moving forward as we look at the post 2026 Colorado River issues, developing proposals that share the responsibility of reductions. And we're demonstrating really that by working together, we can achieve outcomes that will benefit everyone. Hopefully we'll get the upper basin states on the same page with us there. And then I think also really importantly in terms of partnership with water is our increased collaboration with tribal communities. Governor Lewis is here from the Gila River Indian community, and their conservation efforts were critical to getting the proposal accepted by the federal government that was just announced last week. So really grateful for their partnership, but we have really looked at how our tribal communities can and should be taking a leadership role and really brought them to the table. And it has really helped move us forward.
I think you put the microphone over there, so we'll see if that works. So Arizona has long had a reputation for leadership in water policy, and particularly when it comes to the 1980 Groundwater Management Act. But as an arid state, we are often subject to scrutiny. What are your thoughts on how Arizona can maintain its place as role model for water management?
So we do still maintain our place as leaders. And I had the opportunity a couple years ago to hear from former Governor Bruce Babbitt himself about the process of ushering in the Groundwater Management Act and just the amount of work it took to get it where it was. And they had to make a lot of compromises, and they knew that that wasn't the end of the conversation, that we had a lot of ways to go. It was never intended that this act would solve all of our problems. So we really need to leverage that role that we have as leaders and work to bring that same spirit as we look to modernize our groundwater management laws and really give our rural communities a voice in how their water is managed, and instead of being sucked out from under them. And it was important to me to take this on from day one. It's why we created the Water Policy Council, and really we're focused on making that process as bipartisan and collaborative and as broad a group of stakeholders as possible, and transparent, so that people saw what we were doing, what we were proposing, and why we were proposing what we proposed. And I think we have a really solid basis for moving forward to get legislation through that will actually solve some of these problems.
The question of optimism versus pessimism often comes up in water dialogues. And you mentioned you were optimistic about Arizona's water future, which is great to hear. Can you share some more about what you're optimistic about and your vision for the future?
Absolutely. My vision, whether it's related to water or any of the other challenges we're dealing with, is one where Arizona rises to that challenge. And I always see challenge as opportunity. It's opportunity to bring people together. It's an opportunity to move us forward. And, there's a lot of negative news nationally about Arizona when it comes to water. And we are not on the brink of disaster. And I think that is so important for all of us to continue to say. But we can lean into this situation. We can leverage our position as leaders. And there is leadership. And I know that all of you have been having this conversation for a long time. And you have brought solutions, and you have been sounding the alarm of what we need to do. And there is leadership in our state now that understands the need to take action, and we're going to. And so I think we just have to continue to lean into that and move forward and see this as an opportunity to continue to move our state forward.
So we have many early and mid-career professionals, along with students, attending this conference, both in person and via Zoom. What words of advice would you offer them regarding working in the water sector here in Arizona?
Well, I think probably most of you here know more about water than I will ever will forget more about water than I will ever know, even if you're new in the field. It's such a complex issue. And so I think in any time you're dealing with such a complex issue that requires the kind of solutions we need, sticking to it is really important. So many people who have been involved in this work for so long are coming towards the end of their careers, and we need new leadership who has the understanding and the expertise and the skills. And you'll only get there if you stay with it and continue to learn and grow and develop your expertise. And we need you to be able to solve these challenges and continue to move forward. So sticking with it, I think is so important. And just understand that for the most part, you're going to be in a public service career, which is sometimes difficult. It's not as high paying as other careers, but it is so important to the future of our state.
So this is our last question. Conference attendees, again, both in person and via live stream, come from all over Arizona, other states, other countries, including Mexico. What can we do to further Arizona's water security?
Well, I think continue to have these kind of conversations, continuing to be focused on working in partnership, understanding that oftentimes these challenges are going to be incredibly difficult and it will require perseverance to get through them. And that the collective expertise in this room and across everyone who's participating is so important. As I mentioned before, you all have been sounding the alarm of what we need to be doing. Take advantage of the fact that there's leadership working to get those things across the finish line now. And you know, I'm hopeful that we're going to pass some legislation this session. That's certainly not going to be the end of the conversation. We have a lot of ways to go, both groundwater area and Colorado River, and we need your collective voices in the room. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you, Governor Hobbs. We are going to have a short photo opportunity up here, and then the governor would appreciate if you remain in your places as she leaves and is going to go off to that side room. And then we'll continue on, and you'll have to listen to me again, say some words of what comes up next. So thank you, Governor. We so much appreciate it.
Thank you. If we could keep this area clear until the governor comes, exits into that room, and we'll have Chris Udall and Jamie McAvoy come up here and begin the next session. Thank you.